Pheobe Sangetari is acting Chief Ombudsman. Another passenger from Ley to Hoskins caught with marijuana. And the Hunters to play their second match in Port Moresby.
This is National EMTV News with Meriba Tulo.
A very good evening. Thank you for joining us for Thursday's news. Pheobe Sangetari has been sworn in as acting Chief Ombudsman, and she is adamant that her appointment will now see the Commission move forward with their programs. Following her swearing in at Government House today by Acting Governor General Sir Salamo India, Ms. Sangetari told media personnel that although financially starved, the Commission would now be moving ahead with several matters that had been halted because there had not been any substantive appointments made to the Chief Ombudsman's position.
Ms. Sangetari was thankful to the Ombudsman Appointments Committee for appointing her to the position of Acting Chief Ombudsman. She was also clear on the fact that she holds the position in an acting capacity until a substantive appointment is made.
First of all, I want to thank the Ombudsman Appointments Committee for the decision to appoint me as acting Chief Ombudsman.
She was quick to highlight that appointment was also a vote of confidence by the Appointments Committee in placing such an important role to a woman professional.
This will be my second time serving in the office of serving as acting Chief Ombudsman, so it's not new to me. I've done this job before, but I thank the committee for their trust and confidence in a woman to perform in this office, and that's a vote of confidence in the women of Papua New Guinea. Let me put it that way, for the committee to have me appointed as acting Chief Ombudsman of Papua New Guinea.
Ms. Sangetari wasted no time in acknowledging the public skepticism about the role and effectiveness of the Commission to perform, but was also positive that her appointment will now see several pending matters before the Commission progress to completion.
And so I assure the people of Papua New Guinea that I will perform my duties as acting Chief Ombudsman without fear and favor, in accordance with the rule of law.
She reassured the PNG public that it was business as usual at the Commission and that the only challenge they faced now was funding to implement their programs.
There's a lot of pending matters we couldn't progress with because we didn't have a Chief Ombudsman or an acting Chief Ombudsman to call the meetings of the Commission and chair the meetings of the Commission. Under the law, he is the only one that does these things. None of the other two ombudsmen have the authority to do this. So it now paves the way with my appointment as acting Chief Ombudsman to do that, to progress Commission business.
She says she has already spoken to the Secretaries for Finance and Treasury for the funding that is owed to the Commission for the months of July and August.
As we speak, we have already been in touch with the Treasury Department, Secretary Department of Treasury and Secretary Finance. I have already spoken to them to release funds for the operations of the Commission because we cannot do much now. Without funding, we are stuck. We can only get paid our salaries, and whatever little money we have, we can pay our bills, and end of story.
Neville Choi, National EMTV News.
Australia's geoscience has revealed that Papua New Guinea is ill-equipped with disaster risk reduction skills. The level of awareness and information reaching the people in disaster-prone areas has been unsatisfactory. Geologists from Geoscience Australia say disaster-related information gathered and passed on by scientists are too technical and difficult to understand by ordinary people. Edwin Fidelis reports from Kokopo.
When Mount Tavurvur and Vulcan volcanoes in Rabaul erupted in 1994, it created a devastating situation. In 1998, when a series of tidal waves struck Sisano Lagoon in West Sepik province, it killed more than 1,000 people and left over several hundred injured and homeless. Today at this forum in Kokopo, hosted by the Geoscience Australia, understanding hazard and risk information for disasters was talked about.
Things like earthquakes.
About 100 participants from various stakeholders, the Rabaul Volcano Observatory, Disaster Office, the provincial government and NGOs gathered to identify why disaster information reaching the people aren't always comprehensive.
In the past, as scientists and doing scientific reports, we've made information that's been much too technical, and so people haven't been able to use it to make decisions. And so the idea of this workshop today is to hear what people need to know and how they would like to receive that information, so we can provide it to them in a way that they can make those better decisions.
Over the years, more and more disaster-related materials are being produced in abundance, but the information collected and supplied by experts are rendered as very complicated. Now, this is because the information are too technical, and many ordinary Papua New Guineans find it very difficult to understand.
Technical agencies and scientists all around the world, it's not just here in PNG, it's a problem that we have in Australia, it's a problem that we have in every country that we work in, is that science is almost like a language in itself. So if we give that information in a scientific language, then no one is going to understand it.
Papua New Guinea remained synonymous with natural disasters, but emergency preparedness remains a big challenge for the government and its various departments, and most importantly, the people's ability to react promptly using vital information in an event of a disaster still linger. Edwin Fidelis, National EMTV News, Kokopo.
The Papua New Guinea Chamber of Mines and Petroleum is encouraging community affairs units within the industry to create sustainable communities. In a workshop held in Lae, community affairs programs were discussed between different companies. An example is the countermeasures taken of the drought in the Fly River of Western Province.
The PNG Chamber of Mines and Petroleum's annual workshop encourages companies to provide sufficient community developments during and after projects. This has come amidst communities depending on various project developers for services and goods delivery over a project's duration. This year's 3-day workshop teaches mining and petroleum companies to build sustainable communities through long-term service developments.
Part of the equation, because education is a legacy. It's a big part of all our projects, and it's a wonderful legacy that we can leave with the community when a project closes.
Over 50 mining and petroleum developers were reminded on community affairs and business developments for communities to be enhanced after project closures.
Almost 2 weeks ago, OTML faced low water level challenges and then shut down operations. This week, the company laid off employees. Now, the MRA Development Coordination Manager, Son Ngansia, says Western's Fly area may feel the impacts as people have relied solely on the company for goods and services delivery.
And there may also be an impact on basic services that are provided. In most instances, these services are provided by the company.
As the PNG Chamber of Mines and Petroleum continues to represent the mining and petroleum industry, encourage community sustainability, some communities are not seeing these benefits but turn to unrealistic demands. Colin Barilai, National EMTV News, Lae.
The national government has imposed another ban, this time on imported potatoes, onion bulbs, capsicum and cabbages. While speaking at the opening of the Nari show, Agriculture and Livestock Minister Tommy Tomskol said this is to protect local farmers who can now sell their produce at the local market without competition. Minister Tomskol says, like the recent ban on imported poultry products, this ban comes to create wealth for the 80% of Papua New Guinea's population who are rural-based.
Minister Tomskol, during his speech to stakeholders at Nari's Alex Quatermain Hall yesterday, made the announcement. He said he has put pen to paper to protect local farmers by securing the consumer market they sell the produce.
Guineans who live in the rural areas, and these 6 million people eat, earn their income and work in this sector.
The ban on imported vegetables will put a stop to those importing the vegetables from other countries so that local farmers can sell their produce to the local consumer market. Minister Tomskol's announcement to ban imported potatoes, onions and cabbages is directly aimed at protecting local farmers and the markets in which they sell their produce. It's also geared towards creating wealth in the 80% of Papua New Guinea's population who live in rural areas of the country. This ban follows that of the poultry ban that was imposed earlier this year by the national government. Minister Tomskol said the ban on poultry follows that imposed by Australia, New Zealand and Fiji.
Australia bans all poultries, Fiji bans all uncooked poultry, New Zealand does. So what we have done is we have only joined the queue.
The Nari show that began on the same day Minister Tomskol made the announcement was focused on the development of agricultural small to medium enterprises through empowering rural populations. Bethany Harriman, National EMTV News, Lae.
You're watching National EMTV News. Land buyers warn to follow procedures, farmers urged to venture into tree planting, and number one super announces strong financial results. Those stories when we come back. Welcome back to the news. The Lands and Physical Planning Department has issued a warning to land buyers in Port Moresby to follow proper processes when buying land to avoid disputes. This comes after settlers in Port Moresby were evicted from land they claimed to be title holders of. Stanley Over Jr. has more.
The current land eviction happening in the nation's capital has prompted the Lands Department to be firm on land buying in the city. In this interview with the Land Secretary yesterday, he said land buyers and investors must be wise in dealing with land in Port Moresby and the country.
Towns and cities are expanding. Development is coming in a much faster pace than it was before. And so I'm encouraging them to be ready for this change that's taking place. And before they come to us, they must sort out all the issues first, and they come to us. We are not going to sort it out for them.
In the last 5 years, Port Moresby has seen a massive growth in private property development. An example of this is the land at Arauma, where city residents are dealing directly with customary landowners to buy land. While this is not illegal, the Lands Department is encouraging landowners and buyers to come forth and register their land to avoid future disputes.
At the end of the day, it should be a win-win situation whereby the landowners benefit from the land that they've either leased or sold to whoever is occupying land there.
While Secretary Kilapat made clear that land within city limits are state-owned, it is fitting for city residents who are looking for land in the city to go to the Lands Department and seek advice to buy land. Stanley Oved Jr., National EMTV News.
The PNG Forestry Association has launched a tree growers toolkit to enable tree farmers to venture into smallholder plantation forestry. Agriculture advocates and agents from around the country attended a 4-day workshop at the National Research Institute this week to learn about the Australian government-funded research development project specifically designed for Papua New Guinea.
Particular workshop here today is
Tony Page from the University of Sunshine Coast has been working with Simon Rollinson of Pacific Island Projects to develop a whole series of resources for farmers and interested agents to progress smallholder forestry in the country. The resources are featured through videos, presentations, activities, audio recordings, fact sheets and a range of tools covering a range of different species. However, the primary focus is on sandalwood and teak, which currently has a high value market.
So there's a whole series of resources that we think is relevant for conservation of forests and also for encouraging people to plant. And then when they're ready to plant, what are some of the techniques and some of the areas that are going to help them be able to establish very high quality plantings.
The team has also managed to structure some of the resources to meet the current PNG education syllabus and hopes to introduce the materials to PNG schools after piloting the project. Through consultation with the Division of Education in East New Britain, the proposed school toolkits have received very good responses from schools and teachers. The materials are arranged according to the outcome-based education system and covers topics including agriculture, forestry, environmental studies and conservation for elementary, primary and secondary school levels. Although necessary steps are yet to be undertaken to have the resources approved and introduced into schools, the team is looking forward to begin piloting the project in East New Britain schools.
In consultation with the Division of Education in East New Britain, we had a committee with the Education Division and also some target schools within East New Britain province. So they were developed in that method.
Vanessa Knight, National EMTV News.
The Finance Department has introduced a financial management system designed to ensure government funds are accounted for. The Integrated Financial Management System, launched in Port Moresby today, gives government bodies a visual evidence of how government money is being spent. The Education Department is the newest body to use the IFMS.
This integrated system performs similar roles to that of a debit or credit card and allows visibility on government funds. Though only in use for over a year, at least 15 government departments are already using IFMS to manage government allocated funds.
Of the public funds, manage public funds better, because we would then be able not just signing papers that are pushed to us, but we will actually know what we are signing for in terms of the availability of funds.
Communications and Information Secretary Paulius Corney said his department will use IFMS to monitor its financial transactions and hopes transparency is maintained. Its launch comes as more government offices want to see mismanagement practices minimized and be able to account for all allocated government funds.
This is the way to go to properly manage the finances in our respective agencies. Our department is very small, but I want to ensure there is accountability in the department.
The PNG Fire Department and Electoral Commission are two other government departments also using IFMS. Tekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
Number One Super has announced strong financial results over the first half of 2015. Highlights include a pre-tax profit of 168 million kina, representing a return of about 3.5%. The earnings come from a range of investments, but the main contribution comes from investments in bonds.
A media conference was called today for Number One Super to update its members and the public on the strong results over the first half of the year. Number One Super Board Chairman Anthony Smare announced the highlights.
We've achieved a 3.5% return on our assets. This equates to a pre-tax profit of 168 million kina, which is a fantastic result in very challenging conditions, as people are aware. Our net asset value is now nearing 5 billion kina. Our management expenses remain contained, and we are delighted with the result.
Mr. Smare stressed that the return of the 168 million kina excludes any valuation adjustments for unlisted equity and property portfolio.
It also does not include a strong performance of our investment in Kina Securities Limited, which listed last month on the Australian Stock Exchange and is currently trading 25% higher than the listing price.
The positive results were, however, followed by warnings to members of the challenges that PNG will be facing in the later part of the year. These relate to recent economic developments.
Particularly in these tough times, I would encourage all members to continue to save and not be distracted from saving by the changing economic climate. We started the shift from what you call unrealized gains, which is increases in valuations for property and unlisted equity that you can't actually see in cash, and we made the transition to realized gains, so really focusing on actual cash returns like dividends, like rental from properties.
Mr. Smare said it's difficult to predict how the financials for Number One Super will look in the second half of the year. He said it very much depends on the government's expenditure decisions. The board of Number One Super has assured its members that it will prudently manage its portfolio for their benefit. Deli Waigeno, National EMTV News.
And now a look at the finance news. The kina closed unchanged at $0.3605 in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, your kina was buying $0.3530 $0.4756 Australian dollars, €0.3127 euro, and 43.44 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, coffee and cocoa closed higher, while gold and copper closed lower. Crude oil closed higher, while copper and palm oil closed the day lower. And on the stock markets, the Dow Jones closed at 213 points lower, the ASX closed at 90 points higher, and the All Ordinaries closed at 91 points higher. You're watching National EMTV News. Drugs bound for Hoskins intercepted, and bystanders take advantage of a vehicle involved in an accident on the freeway in Port Moresby. Those stories and more after the break. Welcome back to the news. A 19-year-old man has been handed over to police after security guards at Lae's Nadzab Airport caught him with 5 kilograms of marijuana. The drugs were found after security guards inspected his bag just before he boarded a Hoskins-bound Travel Air flight. Scott Wider reports from Lae.
The East Sepik man was caught by airport security guards whilst carrying out routine pre-flight checks. At about midday, he managed to pass through the initial checks with the drugs packed in his carry-on luggage. Security guards found several packages, all tightly wrapped and bound with masking tape in his backpack. He was taken to the security office and held as police travelled in from Lae to formally arrest him. Last month, 2 Simbu women who had travelled in from the Eastern Highlands were found with close to 90 kilograms of marijuana strapped to their bodies. According to police, they have been given 2-year sentences, with the court using outdated legislation against an illegal trade that has become a lucrative source of income for many people.
We've come to Nadzab Airport on at least 6 different occasions when drug smugglers are caught, and despite the steady rate of arrests and convictions, smugglers still use Lae City as a major transit point for drugs bound for the New Guinea Islands. And that's because a small pack of this size can fetch up to 10 kina in Rabaul and Bougainville. Scott Wider, National EMTV News, Lae.
A truck belonging to a popular food manufacturing company was looted this morning after it crashed with another vehicle along Port Moresby's Pore freeway. Bystanders took advantage of the situation and broke through the back of the truck to loot whatever they could. When EMTV arrived at the scene, bystanders, including women and children, were rushing for goods in the truck. This security officer was also caught on camera in full uniform, forcing his way through the mob of looters. Police arrived seconds after the looting and fired warning shots to disperse the crowd. However, they could not save the goods that were taken from the truck. Prime Minister Peter O'Neill has issued directions for Moresby Provincial Disaster Operations boss Charlie Masange to lead a team to Madang. The Moresby team is to assist the Madang authorities coordinate and fast-track on the ground relief operations for the volcano-affected Manam Islanders.
Minister Peter O'Neill has ordered the release of 250,000 kina for Manam's relief operations, with another 300,000 kina to be released by Treasury soon after. The PM is disappointed with the Madang authorities for moving too slow since the minor eruption 2 weeks ago. Back on Manam Island, the volcano-affected people are going through the first phase of hunger as a result of the ongoing ash falls contaminating their food and water sources. The fruits and nuts that they are surviving on have run out. The remaining water wells are drying up because of the 2 months drought. They are turning to the sea for both food and water, but the ongoing ashfall is also contaminating the sea around them. Casualties on the island so far include a grade 6 student hit by rocks thrown by the volcano, 4 babies affected by the ashfall, and other illnesses. The health center cannot admit its patients on the island as the tanks have run out of water. The Chief Secretary, Manasupe Zurinok, is urging the Manam Islanders to remain at the care centers because it is costing the government a lot of money, even after they were warned not to go back. However, the Manam leaders say they have been facing a lot of problems at the care centers and are appealing to the government for a proper long-term resettlement exercise. Rachel Shise, National EMTV News, Madang.
The West New Britain Provincial Government's focus now is to improve service delivery. In an exclusive interview, Provincial Administrator Williamson Osea told EMTV that processes and systems have been improved in compliance with government policies.
According to the Provincial Administrator, some processes and systems were streamlined to improve cost of goods and service delivery on a performance-based level. These changes were made to replace indicators of the downfall that occurred within the West New Britain Provincial Government. With political support, Hosea says the province is heading in the right direction.
From the report that we have, like West New Britain, I think we've been lagging behind for many years, but I think we have moved up to be one of the 5 top provinces in the country in terms of our financial management and in terms of our performance of like reporting and all that.
Training is a key component and requirement in the Public Service Management Act 2014, adopted by the provincial government as one of its main focus areas. Currently, some public servants are undergoing studies with the hope of improving the public service machinery.
Proper and required training to, to fit into our job and do the job properly. Now our task now is to ensure that some of our officers, where needed, they must go on training.
Moral and ethical principles are some policies introduced to assist public servants in their constitutional duties and is to serve people.
So which is to encourage officers to change their mindset and change their attitude in doing things. Because if they know God, then they will be committed to their work.
Pheobe Sangetari, National EMTV News.
A key master plan that will drive the tourism potential of West New Britain is currently being developed. The plan is a shift from the much talked about oil palm that will help people talk more about tourism.
West New Britain is virtually untouched, unexplored and unknown, and has much more to offer in the island of New Britain. According to Provincial Administrator Williamson Hosea, tourism is now a topic of discussion, developed to create economic empowerment and help raise the province's internal revenue levels.
Ensuring that our local people in the rural areas participate and make the most out of it, that this need to be encouraged in the rural population.
Now, the West New Britain provincial government's next development phase is on tourism. That will become one of the major priorities. The provincial government is determined to build the tourism industry of the province. That is part of a 5-year key master plan and is to promote the province on the world map. The key master plan is developed under the watchful eyes of two experts, Nelson Polius and Nelson Moe, who believe West New Britain has huge untapped potentials.
For us to identify and develop the tourism products so we can market them overseas to attract potential visitors and tourists to West New Britain and later to other New Guinea Islands, provinces.
The product is there. It's just a matter of putting through the marketing area, then whatever comes, with tourists comes here, then that's where the people will benefit from.
While in the Plantation Resort, one of the few has been promoting tourism in the province and thanked the West New Britain provincial government for realizing the big potentials to be offered.
That is something attractive to a very informed sort of traveller who's been in many countries over the world, throughout the world, even the Pacific.
Pheobe Sangetari, National EMTV News.
Turning overseas now, and the Italian Coast Guard has helped rescue more than 1,500 migrants of the Libyan coast in 7 different operations this week. The IOM, International Organization for Migration, says more than 2,000 migrants and refugees have died trying to reach Europe by boat so far this year. Now we bring you this story of one Syrian refugee who had hopes of reaching England but only got as far as France after traveling through 10 nations.
Syrian father of 2 shows us where he sleeps in Calais' so-called jungle. These are his only belongings, so different to what he had.
I owned my house in Raqqa, also one in Damascus. I had a happy life.
Now, Abu Muhammad, which is not his real name, says he lives in fear of both the Syrian government and ISIS.
Our home is destroyed. We spent a year with Daesh. It was a difficult life. We escaped from them. There were too many restrictions. Even religion. They have harmed religion. For them, it's just a cover.
Raqqa remains the de facto capital for the Islamic State in Syria and is a regular target of coalition airstrikes.
Today, our children have lost their smile. They only know fear, the sounds of bombs, explosions. Today, they live in terror.
Abu Muhammad fled Damascus on July 1st in the hope of finding sanctuary for his family who remain in Syria. He crossed into Lebanon and a day later arrived in Turkey, where he stayed for 2 weeks before boarding a boat in Izmir, bound for Greece. After 4 days in Athens, Abu Muhammad crossed into Macedonia, where he took a train to Serbia before walking to Hungary. From there, the journey was by car through Austria and Germany. He then boarded a train to France, arriving in Calais 28 days after he left home.
When we left Turkey, we got lost at sea for around 7 hours. We nearly drowned several times. On the road from Hungary, we encountered gangs, bandits.
After travelling more than 5,600 kilometres, this is not the destination Abu Muhammad envisioned.
Here at the camp, we sleep on the ground. There is nothing else. They offer us only 1 meal a day. Some charities offer us some help, nothing else. We have to queue up for the bathroom. You have to be there on time between 12 to 3 p.m. or you miss out.
Like hundreds of other migrants, he still hopes to get to the UK, just 33 kilometres across the English Channel. So close, yet still so very far.
I'm not worried about my own life, but I'm worried about the future of the young children who need education. Education is important, especially for Muslims. It is the path to paradise.
A path that for now remains closed.
And we'll be right back after these short messages with all the sporting action in Trukai Sports. Stay tuned for the details.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. The PNG Hunters are on a 14-game winning streak and will return to Port Moresby for this Sunday's Queensland Cup Rugby League clash against third-placed Wynnum Manly Seagulls. The Michael Marum-coached side played in front of a sellout crowd at the Sir John Guy Stadium prior to the Pacific Games.
The Hunters will be playing their second game at the Sir John Guy Stadium since moving from the Callabon Oval, which has been their home ground for the last 2 years. They have a score to settle with the Seagulls, who beat them 36-18 back in round 6. Both teams are coming out from wins last weekend, with the Hunters beating Ipswich and Seagulls too strong for Belay. Halfback Ase Boas and second rower Brandy Peter have recovered from injuries to be named in the matchday squad. Sunday's game kicks off at 2:30 p.m. with tickets to go on sale on Friday at Stop and Shop outlets around the city. Tickets are going at 50 kina for the grandstand and 25 kina for the outer stands. Elijah Lavette, National EMTV Sports.
Still on Rugby League, also making a special appearance at this weekend's PNG Hunters match is Phil Gould. The general manager for NRL club Penrith Panthers will be accompanied by some of his players. This was announced today by Papua New Guinea Rugby League chairman Sandis Tsaka, who also explained the deals that they have made with the Panthers.
Very special guest of the PNG RFL will be visiting us during this weekend, Mr. Phil Gould, general manager of Penrith Panthers. The PNG RFL and the Penrith Panthers have been in discussion over the last 12 months to firm up a partnership relationship going forward to basically create a pathway for our rugby league players in PNG to create a pathway into the NRL. And Penrith have been the first NRL club to actually reach out and give us an opportunity to create that pathway.
On a similar note, PNG RFL chairman Sandis Tsaka has cleared the air on the Hunters' move to Port Moresby today. The Hunters will still remain at Kokopo as their base for the rest of the season and will play in Port Moresby for scheduled home matches for the remainder of the season. Moving the team and logistics will take a number of weeks, which will greatly affect the team and its momentum.
Played their last game in Kokopo 2 weeks ago. The last remaining games and 2 games will be played out of Sir John Guy's here in Port Moresby. If we get a finals game up here, it will also be played here in Moresby. But the team is actually still based out of Kokopo. Moving them here, it would be a logistical nightmare for us. They have gym equipment and other stuff
training year that they have to move. Just to move the team requires, 3 weeks. That puts a lot of strain on the team going into the finals. Preparations, we can't do that. So the team for the balance of the season will still be based at Kokopo, but they'll play the remaining games in Port Moresby. But going into the future, after the end of the season, the PNG is looking at a couple of options, lodging, clubhouse facilities and things we're looking at, so we should be able to firm up on something.
Trukai Sports continues after the break. Don't go away.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. A media source called Inside the Games has reported that a series of initiatives and public engagement activities will take place at next month's Commonwealth Youth Games in Samoa. It will run in conjunction with children's charity UNICEF. The activities include workshops and Just Play fan zones where young locals, athletes and visitors will be able to participate in interactive games.
The workshops will be held on rotational basis each day for athletes and officials and will be delivered by representatives from the Commonwealth Youth Sport for Development and Peace and group of young sports leaders from across the region. It is hoped the initiatives will inspire those who attend the Commonwealth Youth Games, scheduled to take place from September the 5th to 11th, and will help form new friendships for many of those who will be attending the event. Young people are given the chance to play sports, such as football, as well as learning about non-communicable diseases, poor nutrition, and gender equality. The event in Samoa will feature 1,000 young athletes aged 14 to 18, who will compete for 107 medals in 9 sports across 5 days of competition. Shane Saroya, National, EMTV Sports.
To rugby union now, and coming off a good defensive and top-kicking game in Sydney last week, the Australian Wallabies are out to prove their 8-point win over the All Blacks wasn't a fluke. The Wallabies continued training in Sydney throughout the week and travelled to New Zealand today for Game 2 of the Bledisloe Cup this weekend. Both sides have made drastic changes to the teams, with Quade Cooper making a pre-World Cup appearance to the Aussies' starting side.
The Wallabies scrum proved to be a talking point for their performance and win over the All Blacks. Impressed with the forwards' drive, prop Scott Seo admitted there were areas of improvement for Game 2 of the Bledisloe.
We had some good scrums on the weekend, but we had some scrums where we could, we really need to improve as well. So I think that's something we're just going to keep searching for and keep building on as the week goes on.
Everything that we did on the weekend, we're going to need to do better on Saturday over there. So when you look at it that way, there's plenty of stuff to work on.
Wallaby great George Gregan also popping into training earlier in the week for a chance to run with the team and assist with the backs.
I was speaking to George the other day, so just come down and have a run. I think a lot of players our players need to get to know some of these guys a bit better, you know what I mean? They see them out and commentating and doing stuff like that, but just the chance to run with them and have a word and nothing in particular, just come by and have.
Chika has made a number of changes to his starting side with Quade Cooper and Nick White at the halves and David Pocock to start off the bench. All Blacks coach Steve Hansen has also made 3 changes to his side for the Bledisloe Cup decider at Eden Park on Saturday. Ma'a Nonu will replace Sonny Bill Williams, while Sam Whitelock and Victor Vitor also make an appearance to the starting 15.
Yeah, we're pretty much straight back into our work and pretty positive about our chances this weekend. As a forward pack, we took quite a bit of a hit. We weren't proud of our performance there, so if anything, we're just looking to make sure that we shore up certain areas, just especially that scrum, obviously, and just around the field, making sure that we give our backs a quicker ball. Because right now, there's a very important cup that's up for grabs at the moment, and we'd really want it to stay at home.
All Blacks captain Richie McCaw will become the most capped player in Test rugby, playing his 142nd match on Saturday. The Rain Genia, National EMTV Sports.
And that ends Trukai Sports for tonight. I'll bring you the weather details for the next 24 hours after the break. Taking a look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours, first of all in the southern region, Port Moresby, Daru, Kerema, Alotau and Popondetta, you can expect fine weather over the next 24 hours. In the Momase region, Leh, you can expect fine weather, mostly fine for Wau and Vanimo, and mostly fine as well for Medang and Wewak. Over to the New Guinea Islands region, mostly fine for Kavieng, fine and windy for Lorengau and Kimbe, brief showers expected in Buka, and mostly fine weather in Kavieng. And in the Highlands region, fine for Mount Hagen, Goroka and Kundiawa, and mostly fine as well for Mendi and Wabeg. To the forecast for small ships, but first there is a strong wind warning current for all coastal waters of the southern PNG Indonesian border through Torres Strait and Daru to Kiwai Island and all Milne Bay Islands including Cape Vogel to Finschhafen, Vitia Strait, CSE Island to Long Island and all New Guinea Islands regions. Waters of southern PNG Indonesian border through Torres Strait and Daru to Kiwai Island to Kerma, Yule Island, Hood Point to Samarai Island. Seas 1.5 to 2 meters. Waters of eastern and western Milne Bay Islands, Samarai Island to Cape Vogel, Finschhafen including Vitia Strait, CSE Island to Long Island, seas 2.5 to 3 meters. Waters west of Long Island to Medang, Bogia, Wewak, Aitape, Vanimo and northern PNG Indonesian border and Bougainville, seas 0.5 to 1.3 meters. And a look at the ocean forecast for PNG areas. Coral Sea, seas rather rough with southeasterly winds at 20 to 25 knots. Solomon Sea, seas rough with southeasterly winds at 25 to 34 knots. Bismarck Sea, seas rough with southeasterly winds at 25 to 34 knots. And the Pacific Ocean, seas rough with southeasterly to southerly winds at 25 to 34 knots. And to end our bulletin, recapping our top stories for tonight, Pheobe Sangetari is acting Chief Ombudsman. Another passenger from Leh to Hoskins caught with marijuana. And the Hunters to play their second match in Port Moresby this weekend. And that wraps up the bulletin for tonight. On behalf of the EMTV News team, have a pleasant evening. Good night.